It's me again with Corel Draw tips and tricks. A couple of people have asked me how I made this lake map. It's in Lake Travis, which is in central Texas, and it's actually 3 layers of material. There's a outer layer of a birch plywood. Then the second layer is actually masonite that's painted a light blue. And then on the third layer, you can either use a really thin piece of wood, or lately I've just been using a high grade construction type paper that actually has a little texture to it. And the reason you'd want to use the paper over the wood is it looks good, and it gives you some room inside your frame. Because once you put a piece of glass, a piece of 1/8 inch plywood, a piece of 1/8 inch masonite, when you add another piece of wood in there, it's a really deep frame. Even though I make all my own frames for these maps to the size the customer wants, it's a little bit of a challenge to try to get it that deep. So I'm going to try to go through the steps here. There's another version of the same map, exactly the same. This is what the drawing looks like when it's inside Corel Draw. The red lines are hairlines. There's 2 sets of hairlines, the lake and then the riverbed. All the black will be engraved out. So this map was actually 24 by 18. It's got, this particular map actually has some longitude and latitude for a person's house that I put right there. So I do some custom mapping. But anyway, the red will be cut out. So I'm just going to try to go through the steps. First of all, I'm a woodworker also, so I have a complete woodworking shop so I can cut the plywood. But if you don't, go to Home Depot and get them to cut it for you. This is actually 1/8 inch birch plywood. I get it a local woodcraft store here. It's a really good high quality plywood. There's what it's going to look like in the laser when it's engraving. So it's going to engrave everything first, and then it's going to go and it's going to cut out the lake. So that's the second process. So there's what it looks like cut out, and the section that's cut out is loose. But what you're going to need to do, you're going to need to sand this. And if you sanded, and I use a random orbital sander, if you sanded it, it's going to maybe catch one of these coves or little bitty pieces and break off. But if you will put that lake, which actually looks like a dragon in this case of Lake Travis, if you'll put it back in the hole, on the back side, tape it down with just some blue masking tape, and then you can sand away and it won't break those little pieces off. And then you need to take that tape off and blow off the sawdust, the sanding dust. And I do not finish that piece of wood because it's going to be under glass. It looks really good. Now the second layer is a piece of masonite, 1/8 inch masonite, and you can get that at your local Home Depot stores too. Masonite, more people know it as a pegboard material. The reason I use masonite, it cuts really good, it paints really good, and it cleans up. So there it is cut out, and here it is. This is the burn residue that's left over by the laser. Well, that would actually paint over, but I take some rubbing alcohol and kind of wipe that and let it dry before I paint it. Then I'm going to paint that thing. Well, I'm actually going to prime it first to, seal in all the little pores. And I paint it from all directions. I actually pick it up on the corner and spray the edges. And it's a flexible material now because it's got the cut in it. And you can kind of bow it and bend it and get to all your edges. Now going back to sanding the plywood, this is what the plywood, and it's not a great picture of what the burn residue looks like. This is what it looks like after sanded. So you really need to sand it. And then the last picture is when I glue it all together. I'm weighting it down. I've got these probably 25-pound weights I found years ago in some boards to make it flat. And I use wax paper, but on top, so it won't, mar the surface. You need to be a little careful gluing so your glue won't run into your lake bed. So you need to glue your outer edges and get pretty close. This is the last picture, I guess, of my engraving shop where I can, there's the very first map I made. Here's the map in Corel Draw. There's the laser, which actually is running right now. But the good thing about my setup is I can set it and watch from the desk, and I don't have to stand over the laser. Because just a word of warning, you don't ever want to leave your laser unattended. I've been doing this about 6 years. I've never had a fire, but I still don't take the chance. Anyway, now to get a little bit more information. The layers. So this is what the lake, that's a better view. There's the riverbed, and then here's the lake cutout. This took me 2 days to draw the very first time. Since then, I've learned how to draw better. But that's what it's going to look like. The red lines are hairlines that are going to cut out. So I just kind of put this a little bit together. And if you have your back layer is the darker blue, your second layer is the lighter blue, and you can already see that it's showing through, because it's a cut, so the riverbed is showing through. And then your last layer is yellow, representing the plywood. But that's what it's going to look like. It's going to show through, it's going to give you some depth, and it's a pretty neat project. You can almost do it for any lake. If you would like to learn how to draw this, of course you wouldn't want to draw my lake, but wherever you live, I've got a couple of videos on YouTube. Just go to Corel Draw Tips and Tricks and search in lake, or go to my below YouTube, it'll have Doug Green. Press on that and you'll see all my videos. Anyway, I hope that helped a little bit, and thank you for watching.